always excited every single Thursday to catch up with the head coach of LSU Baseball, Jay Johnson, who joins us now. Coach, always appreciate the time. Hope you're doing well.
Doing great. How you guys doing this morning?
Doing fantastic, man. We are so fired up to get a super regional here in Baton Rouge. But before we go forward, let's kind of look back to the regional and across college baseball, Coach. I mean, there was teams that were just fighting and scratching and clawing, and we saw like historic upsets, and we saw four seeds win on opening day alone. There was some real competitive baseball, Coach, across the country, and you had some teams fighting in some big venues and didn't back down.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think it's one of the things that makes baseball one of the most interesting, intriguing sports, even though it moves slower than football and basketball. It's in football and basketball, the talent advantage 90% of the time is probably going to win out, and in baseball, because of the pitcher, it's the team that plays the best that day. And I think you saw that in this NCAA tournament. I think 7 hosts lost or did not advance. And, you know, if everything screams baseball, that's it. And we're fortunate that we played well and we're able to advance out, and really excited about what we have coming this weekend.
Yeah, Coach, and the box was electric all weekend long it was, but I was there on Sunday night, and the same fans came back on Monday night, and it was a great atmosphere. And you made some changes, Coach, to the lineup, and those paid off in a big way. And Ethan Fry, there in the 2-hole, he gets on base 6 times, 4 for 4, a couple of doubles, a home run. I mean, those changes worked out perfectly. What went into the thought process of kind of switching some things around with really the season on the line?
Yeah, I've been asked a lot about this, and we've had a very good year, in my opinion, very consistent offensively. You know, I've always operated, though, that, you know, the only day that matters is the one in front of you. And when you're in a winner go home game, championship game, elimination game, obviously you have a lot to gain by taking some risks. And we did it in the national championship game in 23, shuffling the deck a little bit, and obviously paid off. And just kind of looking at where all the players were like today, because I believe young players change day to day. We're not major leaguers. They're not major leaguers. And, you know, given the circumstances of the game, how did we want to set the lineup? You mentioned Ethan. I think he's easily the hottest, and in my opinion, one of the best players in the country right now today. Yeah. So I wanted to get him to the plate as many times as we could. He just got a good slow heartbeat, very mature player, in control of himself. And then Stephen Milam, put him behind him. He's taken the at-bats that we believe he's capable of right now. And I wanted to get those guys up as many times as we could. Danny had hit a couple home runs against Little Rock on Friday.
Yeah.
They obviously viewed him as a threat. Thought Jake Brown was just a good matchup for the pitcher, and then put in Jared in the 6-hole. If those guys in front of him did their job, you know, it might make things a little bit easier on him, where they'd almost lose track of him, forget about him. And obviously he popped a big home run, you know, and then obviously, you know, what I said to the team, having Luis in the 8-hole, that's as good an 8-hole hitter as you're going to have in the country tonight. And he popped 2 home runs. So it worked out great, but it was really just a sign of, you know, we gave everybody a job to do in the lineup that day, and the guys did a good job executing it.
Coach, introduce myself to you. It's Matt Flynn. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Looking forward to talking with you every week the rest of the season. So, look, my question is, the big decision. You're going into this regional, and it's different than any other week of the season. You have a lot to think about. You have a lot of, from a pitching standpoint, what's the rotation going to be? When do guys come in? How many innings? Everything like that. It's different than any other week of the season leading up to that point. So what kind of goes into, like the game 3, what goes into your decision on who's starting and what, you know, how many rotations through the lineup you want them to go? Like, what kind of goes into that preparation of game 3 from a starter standpoint, but also knowing that you kind of have to be prepared for a potential game 4 as well?
Yeah, great question. And, you know, I don't know that T-Bob would have articulated it the same way you just did it.
Yes! So, you just gave me my first great question response. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I couldn't wait to give him a hard time. Very nice to meet you, first off. Second off, a lot, honestly. I mean, game 1 and 2 are pretty easy with the guys that we have. It's not easy in terms of winning, but you're going to go with those 2 guys. It was just a matter of determining what order. And, I had a thought out deal of why we were going to do Anthony and then Cade. And so that was in place. And then, really game 3 wasn't as hard as you would think. I mean, Jaden Newt has thrown the ball really well for us for the last 3 or 4 weeks and felt like he could get us off to a good start, didn't have his best outing. And then you're right, it gets a little tricky. Obviously I would have loved to have ended the deal on Sunday night, but you have to play that thing smart, because the worst thing that you could do is burn through your best guys and lose that game. And so we're fortunate where we feel like we had multiple options at that point. When I say that about 4 or 5 guys, Chase Shores had been throwing the ball well. We were up 3-2. Velocity in that team's second game in the doubleheader, I thought would give him problem, and he immediately got us out of that inning, with the lead, and then went out and got the leadoff guy and felt like he could get us 3 to 4 innings, which would give us the time to see where the game was at. Now, if we're up 5-1, or excuse me, at that point 5-2, Kason Evans was going in the game on Sunday night, to finish it. But they took the lead, at 5-3, stretched it to 6-4, I believe, or 6-3, then 6-4. And then ultimately 10-4, and that's one of the weird games of the year where it's great that you're in the winner's bracket, but you have to do that the right way, and I feel like that we did. And it was honestly like 10-4 in the ninth. It was almost better that it was 10-4 than had stayed 6-4, and it put us in a good spot. I felt really good about Monday, knowing we had Zach, Kason, and Anthony for the very back end of the game, and felt like we would hit. We didn't come through necessarily on Sunday night, but I felt like our offense was in a good spot. Those 3 pitchers, maybe a couple other guys for short bolts, that we were in a good spot to win on Monday.
And Coach, Kason Evans, what can you say about him? He doesn't start the game on Monday, but when he comes in, strikes out 9 straight guys. He was unhittable, and he had this look about him, and he had this energy about him, and he was wasting no time on the mound. It's like, catcher, get me the ball as soon as you can. Batter, get in the box, and I'm going to strike you out. Like, there was some big alpha energy from him. And I've asked you this before, and I'm just going to keep harping on it. You're not supposed to have that as a freshman. Certainly a true freshman in that venue, in the best stadium in college baseball with everything on the line. But he's got it and then some.
There's no doubt. That's one of the most important players we've recruited here in my 4 years. Knew it the second we got him, got him through the draft. I don't know if I said this earlier in the year when we were talking about him. Well, I was supposed to go to one of my friend's wedding in California, and then on a Saturday, I was going to leave on Friday, and then Thursday, he called me and said, "Hey, my parents and I want to come back out for a second visit." So I called my buddy and I said, "Hey, man, sorry, we're not coming. Like, this is and he's a baseball guy. I was like, you'll get it when this dude shows up." And
Coach, did you text him the other night? Please say you did.
I called him on Monday night, and he's like, "That was the guy, wasn't it?" I was like, "That's exactly who that was."
So he understood that, right? As soon as hey, that was the guy that just struck out 9 straight guys in the postseason. Like, you're forgiven forever for that, right?
Yeah, no doubt. He's a baseball agent, so he was like, he knows very well who he is now. So.
Coach, I was curious watching on Monday. What are the in-game adjustments? Is there anything said from a coaching staff to a lineup if there's a tight strike zone in a game? Because I thought watching the game, and I'm a very novice baseball knowledge guy, but I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking one of the big differences right now is it seems that our guys, LSU, is adjusting to a tighter strike zone from a discipline standpoint in the batter's box. Is there something like you in the first couple innings? Is there a mid-game adjustment that you tell all your guys, we got a tight strike zone, we're going to implement a different type of game plan in the batter's box?
100%, and you always are adjusting to the pitcher, having a good game plan there. I think, the umpire, you can tell pretty quickly. And, most of the time, not the other night, but most of the time we're the home team. And based on, you had the two of the elite strike throwers in the history of whatever, when Cade and Anthony, depending on, whether the guy's raising his right arm. If he's not raising his right arm when those guys are throwing in the first inning, you're like, okay, guys, let's button this thing down a little bit. And so that's definitely a thing. It doesn't happen as much as you think. And I would say this, and I've felt this coming out here, the NCAA tournament's different because you're getting the best of the best umpires. But I think they've done a great job, and they do a great job in the SEC. And the guys this weekend, I thought behind the plate did a really good job. And and sometimes, you get them from different parts of the country in the NCAA tournament. That's kind of how they do it. And I actually worry about it going the other way sometimes where it opens up a little bit,
right.
And, but yeah, I thought our guys did a good job. I mean, we had a bunch of walks the other night, which, that's a big part of our offense. It's like turnovers in football. Let's just take what they give us and turn it into something big. And, yeah, I thought our hitters did a good job with that.
Catching up with LSU head baseball coach Jay Johnson here on OTB. All right, Coach, let's go to West Virginia. They won the Big 12 in the regular season. Really good baseball team. They go to Clemson, South Carolina. They win that regional against, a pretty good field with Clemson, Kentucky, and others. Initial look at West Virginia, kind of your initial breakdown of what they're bringing to town.
Yeah, two really good starting pitchers. Their Friday guy or number one guy they lean on a lot. They actually brought him in like we did with Anthony, but on one day's rest to finish out the regional. So they really lean on him a lot. Those guys throw a lot of pitches. They're going to stay in the game. They ride them on offense. Impressive in terms of how they play. I would say, they obviously have like 108 stolen bases or something like that. They do a really good job with the bunting game. They have old position players that take really good at bats. They don't strike out very much. And I think most importantly, and you guys know how important this is, they believe that they can win. And they're a championship caliber team and one of the best leagues in college baseball. And we're going to have to play great, to advance out of this. Yep. And we're excited about that challenge.
Coach, I'm not gonna ask you like what your lineup decisions and what it's gonna be.
Good, because he wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, well, obviously, but like when you go into making a decision like that, especially this time of the year, do you kind of go with like a hot hand? Do you go with what's happening in the short term, or do you kind of look at it as, all right, we're resetting. This is a brand new weekend. Let's go with what kind of the long term plan is.
Well, your season's on the line every day now, so it's really what's best for today. And like I said, it's a little bit unconventional thinking, but, our players, again, in 18 to 21, 22, they change a little bit more than the professional player. And then sometimes there's just a matchup thing. Like, hey, we work really hard on that. Great guy, and Jamie Tutko, and helps me with, like, some data and analytics and evaluating matchups. And then we'll set the lineup. I'll consider starting a guy that hadn't started in a long time on Monday night, just because we felt like we like where he's at with his at-bats that he's taking right now. And, he's going to impact the game some way, shape, or form. And so it's a little more like what's best for today. Now, with that being said, we've been very consistent this year and very good throughout the season. We had one hiccup at Auburn, but other than that, it doesn't mean we've scored 7 or 8 every game, but I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to get, and sometimes it's just slotting them for what's best for that day.
And we look forward to it. Coming up this weekend inside Alec Box Stadium, West Virginia coming to town for a super regional. Coach, man, me and the family had such a good time at the regional. Can't wait to be back at the box for the super regional. The stadium was electric. It's going to be turned up to an absolute 11. We look forward to it, and we always appreciate your time.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, there he is, head baseball coach for the LSU Tigers, Jay Johnson. Good enough to join us every single week here